So today I want to talk about freedom from the spiritual perspective and just share some of my experiences with how that's changed over my journey in hopes that this will give you some insight on no matter where you're at on your spiritual journey, which I also consider to be a part of self discovery. Uh, your spiritual journey is a self-discovery journey, one of many ways that you can learn about yourself. And so through this aspect of really exploring freedom and sharing kind of what freedom looked like earlier on or even before my quote unquote spiritual journey, um, and what that looks like now. Yeah, like that has changed a little bit and my perspective has changed. And yeah, I hope that you will find this useful. I will share some of my insights. So let's dive right on in. So, one of the things, so when it comes to spiritual journey, like I mentioned, it's an aspect of self-discovery. It's a way that you can learn about yourself in a more in a deeper way. And when I think about um, freedom, one of the questions that comes to mind is, what do you currently believe freedom is? What does that represent for you? Um, for me, it was definitely something where initially I just thought of what I was shown on TV and in movies. When I started to define freedom for myself, it was I was really focusing on freedom from things that were like holding me back in life. um I wanted freedom from worry, freedom from fear, freedom from hardship, freedom from heartache. I wanted freedom to be something that would take away things, right? That was kind of my initial view. And as things progressed over time, I started to look at freedom in a different way. I wanted to I wanted the freedom to do things, right? Instead of to instead of having freedom as a form of just taking things away that I didn't want to experience or feel, it became something that I wanted to experience so I can do more things with, right? So freedom to travel whenever I wanted without worry, or freedom to spend whatever I want and not have to, be concerned about money. Um, the freedom to live my life however I wanted and not have to deal with any consequences or something like that, right? It was moving from freedom from something to freedom to do things. And where I'm at in my journey right now is freedom. And this is something I encourage you to really explore, like the different stages of your life, because what you define something how you define something now can change over time, and that's part of why I'm sharing this. So with where I'm at now, freedom is more so a state of being. It's more so from that spiritual perspective. It's like freedom. I want the freedom to just be who I am authentically, and to be in flow and be in alignment in mind, body, and spirit. And for that to show up not only spiritually, but also for there to be an alignment physically as well, right? So I am living in my purpose. I feel fulfilled in my life, being who I authentically am. I don't have to try to be something that I'm not. I don't have to um, be unnecessarily stressed over things that really don't align with who I am now, and and who I authentically am. Like that is what freedom has evolved into. And what that means spiritually is it is about alignment. Freedom is about being in flow. Freedom is about the energy, the emotions, and how you feel about yourself, how authentically, how true you are to yourself. How true are you to who you are? Are you living in a way that's only to satisfy other people? Or are you living in a way that is in alignment with who you truly are and truly represents where you're at in your life and what that means for you spiritually, emotionally, mentally? And that will change over time. So, where you're at right now in your life, that will change. That will let's not use change. That will evolve over time, right? Because as you grow, your perspective changes and expands, and things will start to shift for you. So I want you to take that into consideration when it comes to what you want freedom to feel like what does freedom feel like for you now? It can very much be rooted into physical things, right? That's definitely what it was for me. And that doesn't mean that freedom is not something that will never be focused on physical things, even on your spiritual journey. But it's more so about a state of being, all encompassing aspects of freedom. Because if you try to compartmentalize freedom, then you're always going to find there's always going to be some type of roadblock if you just limit freedom to one particular area of your life or to one situation. So over time and where I'm at now in my journey, it's definitely a more holistic view. And it's not just about the things that I no longer, that I'm trying to get away from, um, but it's about that state of being. It's about um, so much more than what that could look like for me here in the physical form, but more so this feeling and this flow and this alignment um, on all levels. And so through that, some of the lessons that I learned is that freedom does not require approval from anyone. So I talked about freedom, like at one point, the freedom to do things, right? I wanted the freedom to do things and not worry about it, or to do things and not have to deal with certain consequences. But sometimes that in that mindset or in that stage of my life, sometimes that required some form of approval. And where I'm at with it now, it's like freedom to be who you are, freedom like to be in alignment on a mind, body, spirit, soul level does not require approval from anyone but you. It's something that you can start to experience or believe or tune into, and it will continuously evolve. Because that's one of the common roadblocks when it comes to freedom and feeling like, oh, I can't be who I am because these people won't let me, or my parents, won't respect me, or my parents will feel this way, or my family will disown me, or things like that. And those are very real experiences, and I don't want to diminish that, especially for people that might be in a situation where they are not in a safe space, right? But if you are in a safe space, if you are in a place where you can start that process of not focusing on who, or not feeling like you have to seek out approval from anyone other than yourself. And it can be a journey, for you to start to build that trust in yourself, to trust your decisions, to trust what you're experiencing, to trust that you're moving in the right direction. That's definitely a part of the journey. And that's something that everyone has to go through to some extent. But when it comes to what approval you need, it's you saying yes to yourself, you letting go of the things that really don't serve you, you letting go of the things that you're really doing, or letting go of who you're pretending to be or feeling like you have to be in order to please other people. Um, Giving yourself the opportunity, um, and creating the space to actually listen to your body and to allow yourself time to heal, because it's through that process as well that you'll start to recognize certain patterns or experiences that actually keep you in that phase of um, holding on to things that keep you in that state of lack, or keep you in that constraint, right? That hold you back from feeling or experiencing that sense of freedom that is in alignment with who you are on a spiritual level. And sometimes when it comes to that spiritual aspect of freedom, we forget that there is a parallel when it comes to spirituality and like how that shows up in our physical lives. And over time, a merging will happen. So you'll see some things, and sometimes there will be a bit of what I would consider a delay. So something that you're experiencing spiritually, then it might be some time before that shows up physically, and vice versa. But the more you connect on that spiritual level with yourself, the quicker you start to see the parallels. You'll start to notice the areas that you're experiencing resistance spiritually. You'll see how those areas show up in physically. And by physically, I'm talking about in your day-to-day stuff, with your job, with your relationships, just day-to-day life, right? You'll start to see those things. And so that's what I'm talking about when it comes to alignment, when it comes to that state of freedom, or that stage of freedom where it's about it's being in alignment and seeing that merging happen on that spiritual and physical level. And this is why, like I mentioned earlier in the video, that I consider the spiritual journey to be a self-discovery journey. I consider the spiritual journey to be a self-growth, personal development journey. And sometimes there's a disconnect, or we compartmentalize these areas of our life. But one of the major lessons has definitely been, like, when you're in that state, like, you don't have to hide who you are spiritually. And despite how other people might feel about your beliefs, not that you have to share them. And I feel like that could be a major thing, especially in the Black community, when it comes to if you grew up in a religious household, and maybe you stepped away from that, or transitioned out of the religious constructs, and you're taking a different route when it comes to your spiritual journey or your spiritual path. That can be a state of resistance. But as I mentioned, when it comes to freedom, that final stage of freedom, or at least let me not say final, the stage of freedom, at least that I'm at now, the level that I'm at now compared to those two phases I was in previously, it's like, that's just where they're at. But I'm not going to allow that to stop me or hold me back, or try to hide or pretend that I'm not who I am, just because that would make them more comfortable. It's like, no, just you can be uncomfortable for a little while, or however long you want to be uncomfortable. That state of freedom is about I can be who I am authentically, despite how other people feel about it. And the question is, are you at that state yet? You might not be, and that's okay. But I want you to ask yourself, how do you define freedom right now? And is freedom in alignment with where you're at spiritually and how that shows up for you physically in your physical world? Is there an alignment there, or is there a disconnect? If there is a disconnect, it's okay if there is one. This is just an opportunity to be more aware of what's happening so you can start to move towards that aspect of freedom that is more in alignment with where you're at spiritually. And that's the biggest lesson here, the biggest takeaway from, at least from my experiences when it comes to freedom and what that can look like. And I definitely want to encourage you to explore that for yourself, because it will evolve over time and it will look differently in different stages of your life. And none of it is wrong. Your experiences aren't wrong. There's no right or wrong here. It's really just an exploration and being able to understand like where you're at in your journey. So another thing so I talked about like freedom from those lessons. One of the things has been not needing to seek approval. The other thing is being at that stage of experiencing freedom from a spiritual perspective. When it comes to freedom being a state of being, it's being unapologetic. Being unapologetic about what you believe in, even if you don't know what you believe in yet, because it's okay to not know as well. You can still be figuring it out. Being unapologetic about wanting to explore something that scares you, wanting to explore something that you're unsure about, or just being in that state of I don't know. You don't have to feel bad for not knowing. Oftentimes on that spiritual journey, there's going to be so much that you don't know. But the part of the journey is stepping into the unknown and learning through doing and through saying yes to it and seeing where it leads you and trusting the process. That's an aspect of freedom, actually, because you're not so fixated on not like choosing or feeling like you can't make a move until you know what the outcome is. And we tend to do that. It's like, oh, well, I can't do it until I know exactly what the end goal is going to be, or like what the end result's going to be. And you can't know what the end result is going to be until you actually get to the end result, right? You can only know what's right in front of you. And you can trust that the process will get you to that desired result. You can trust that, but either way, you can't control that outcome in the moment when you don't know what's happening. You can only control the next step that you take. And there is a sense of freedom in that. And when it comes to just allowing yourself to trust your experiences, allowing yourself to trust your intuition, and to be unapologetic about it. To not apologize to people for you having a different way to view things, or feeling apologetic, feeling like you have to apologize because you no longer believe what your friends and family believe, or you no longer believe what you used to believe, right? Like it's okay to change and to expand and to grow. Like that's what it's about. So that's been another lesson through navigating those stages of freedom is it's just like, yeah, I don't know, and I'm not going to be sorry about it. Or yeah, I feel this way about this, and I'm not going to feel sorry about it. I'm not going to feel sorry that you feel uncomfortable. I'm not going to feel sorry that this does not work for you, or this makes, or I'm not going to feel sorry that this makes me feel uncomfortable, right? Like, so it's just some of those things um, that can be very empowering when you realize it's all about you claiming your authority, you reclaiming your personal power. Like, that's what freedom is on so many levels. Having the autonomy to really be who you are, and through being who you are in mind, body, and spirit, everything else comes into alignment in every other area of your life. So back to those questions that I want you to consider and to explore is, what do you feel like spiritual, like what do you feel like freedom, how do you define freedom right now? And is your current definition of freedom and what you're experiencing, is in alignment, is that in alignment on a spiritual level and then on a physical level? Is it in alignment? Do you see a disconnect? What does that look like? So that's what I want you to take from today's video. I talked about like the 3 stages that I've been through, at least thus far, when it comes to freedom and what that could look like on what that has looked like for me on my spiritual path. And I've talked about how spirituality is in your spiritual journey is also a self-discovery journey. And that's, spirituality is also about personal development. It's all, at least from my view, it is all an aspect or a facet of that. And I feel like it's important to discuss things through this lens of spirituality, because sometimes we can get so fixated on what we see other people doing, and we don't know what it takes for them to get to that point in their journey, or we don't know what their process is when it comes to their spirituality or what they believe. And so when you start to look at things through this lens of spirituality, and however you view spirituality, there's no, and that's all, like, we're all on different paths here. So it doesn't matter what you believe in, whether you consider yourself spiritual or religious or an atheist or whatever, it doesn't matter, right? It's however you define spirituality. So this isn't exclusive to a particular group of people. It's really about what that actually looks like for you. Because when you start to look at it through that lens, then you're focusing less on mimicking what other people are doing and thinking and hoping that, oh, let me see what this person, let me just do what they're doing and kind of getting the same result. Because no, it's like, what's the energy behind what they're doing? You're not going to know that. And your energy and what you need to experience something similar, or to try to get to that result, or to get to maybe there's someone that inspires you, and they inspire an aspect of freedom that you want to attain. The way that they got there won't necessarily be the way that you are going to get there. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this video and kind of reflect on what that process has been for me, in hopes that it can give you some insight on your journey. And I would love for you to share in the comments, if you feel like to share, like what has come up for you, what that journey has been like for you thus far. And and what was your takeaway from the video? So like this video if you liked it, and if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell. And I will see you again next week. Bye.